Okay. All right. I think we can go ahead and get started now. Is everybody ready? Yeah. Um, Thank you everybody for joining us today. We're going to be doing a pretty short webinar here on modernizing RDS operations. We got Peter Aden, he's CEO, co-founder of TruGrid. He's going to be talking about remote access to the basically KorGrid environments with Hazen Core. He's a newer alliance partner that we have at TruGrid here. I believe we have multiple demo environments set up with his solution, and we absolutely love it. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity to go ahead and do a webinar and show everybody how we're doing our Microsoft RDS operations. In a moment, they'll go ahead and introduce themselves and give you a little bit of background why they're here and what they're doing. What we're going to be talking about today is managing your hosting environment, operational and infrastructure control, increasing security while reducing complexity, why common alternatives fall short, modern RDS operations stack. We're going to provide a quick demo. We think it'll probably take about 10 minutes to set up a remote hosted environment along with setting up TruGrid on it. And then we'll have time for Q&A at the end. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Peter and Hazen to go ahead and introduce themselves.
Okay. Brandon, thank you very much for the introduction. For many of the TruGrid partners on the call, I'm sure I've met many of you, and we'll probably have a few new people that we haven't met. As Brandon said, the reason why we're having this demo today is to kind of show you a simpler and a more effective way to do things. I am the CEO and co-founder of TruGrid, been with the company since founding in 2018, and we grew significantly during the COVID pandemic, and we haven't looked back ever since. A lot of our customers are mostly in the MSP community, and now we're growing a lot of our corporate footprint. And Hazen has been an amazing partner, and we're happy to share what we can do together with all of you today. Hazen, over to you.
Thanks, Peter. So thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Hazen Core. I'm the founder and principal engineer here at KorGrid. So KorGrid is a private cloud provider focused on giving organizations full control over their hosted infrastructure. A lot of what we're going to talk today about is control. So before founding KorGrid, I spent 20 years working as a network and systems engineer, along with various IT leadership roles at organizations as small as 100 people, all the way up to Fortune 500. And if there's one thing every organization has in common, is that they're all different. In fact, that's actually how I discovered TruGrid. We had a customer that came to us wanting secure access to their virtual machines hosted in our private cloud. And, you know, the traditional approaches were VPNs or potentially a full remote desktop services deployment with brokers and gateways, certificates, and all the complexity that comes with that. But that's not what they wanted. They wanted something simple, something secure, something easy for their users to access. So we started looking for a better answer, and that's how I found TruGrid. So the reason I tell that story is because it's a good reminder that there's rarely one correct way to solve a technology problem. The best solution is not always the most technical one. It's what's best for your particular business at that particular time. And that's especially true when we talk about infrastructure. So if you've been doing this as long as I have, you've watched infrastructure become more and more complex over the years. Firewalls have evolved from simple TCP IP port filtering into full layer 7 security platforms. Then came microsegmentation, VXLAN, zero trust, single sign-on. The reality is that infrastructure today isn't just about keeping systems online. It's about maintaining control over how those systems communicate, how they're secured, and how they're managed. So when organizations evaluate a move to the cloud, many assume that they're simply just going to move their servers from one location to another. They're going to go from their data center to someone else's data center. But what they often discover, sometimes a little too late, is that they're also going to have to adapt to someone else's way of doing things. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Public cloud solves a lot of problems, but it's important to understand the trade-offs. Take networking as an example. Over the years, your teams have developed standards that work for your organization, your VLAN structure, your IP addressing schemes, your firewall policies, the way that your applications communicate. In many cloud platforms, those controls might not exist, or if they do, they might not allow the level of granular control that you're looking for. Sometimes, you need the flexibility to configure a firewall rule or a VLAN or a subnet the way that your environment requires. That's why one of the most important questions to ask during any cloud migration is, can my architecture move with me? Because every time you redesign something, you're creating more work. It's more testing, more documentation, more opportunities for mistakes. So the goal should be to move your infrastructure, not redesign it. The best migrations are usually the ones where your engineers can continue using the knowledge that they already have. The networking is familiar, even the management interface is familiar. Because at the end of the day, your team is still accountable for security, performance, uptime, and the compliance of your infrastructure. The closer your infrastructure aligns with with the way that your organization actually operates, the easier it is to support, to troubleshoot, and to grow. Your infrastructure may live somewhere else, but the control of it should still belong to you. I'll turn it over to Peter.
Thank you very much, Hazen. Can you forward the slide, Brandon?
Yeah, 1 second. It froze up on me. Hold on. Oop, there you go. Sorry.
Okay. And furthering what Hazen was talking about, I'm going to start out by letting everybody knows, and I think anybody in systems engineering, like we all are, we all recognize something about complexity. There can be vulnerability in complexity, and there can be better security in simplicity. And that is the operational viewpoint of TruGrid and KorGrid. That's one of the reasons why we love the platform. When our head of support, Ray, who's on this call, was asked to evaluate KorGrid, the first thing he said was he hasn't seen a simpler environment before, which is kind of our operating principle as well. So there are obviously many ways to solve technical problems, like Hazen was saying. So this is just one of those. And the focus of TruGrid and KorGrid is simplicity. So why is that important? It's like in many other systems that we have today, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud, the public clouds, you have all this add-on fatigue. In traditional case, like Hazen was saying, if you're using even traditional RDS environment, you have to set up what they call a broker. You have to set up a gateway. You have to set up RDS web. You have to open a firewall port. You have to go get a certificate that you have to renew every year. You have to get MFA. You get all this complexity that you have to kind of work with. So all these moving parts waste time and resources, and it increases the failure point. Okay, so that's one thing that we want to talk about, that we're trying to solve, what we've actually solved, and we're talking about that. The other thing is security. If you kind of think about it, when something is exposed, it's easier to get hacked. When something cannot be seen, it's actually much more difficult to get hacked. So one of the principles of TruGrid in the case is that For authentication, before you can gain access, you have to authenticate in the cloud. If you do not successfully authenticate in the cloud, you can't even see anything. An environment protected by TruGrid, when you're scanning the internet, you don't see nothing. And once you're authenticated, you have access to only the things that you've been allowed to see. So essentially, zero trust is a hallmark and a foundational principle of good solutions that reduce complexity. And thankfully, we recognize that RDS is a huge thing that people depend on, and we didn't try to replace it. So what we did was we strip away all the complexity and replace it with simplicity. So for organizations, many of our customers know they're already using RDS. All they did was they strip away all the complexity. You drop in TruGrid, and with that, you can integrate with your Entra environment, if that's where your authentication source is. If you have Active Directory, which is foundation of most Windows networks, will give you MFA. It's built into the product. And any IT person that knows Windows today can manage the environment. So in short, an environment that mirrors simplicity is about reducing add-ons, providing zero trust, and integrating with the existing system and giving you the maximum security possible. So whether you want to use conditional access with your integrated M365, we'll do that for you. And if you don't, you want to use pure AD, we give you MFA. So I'm going to hand over to the next slide, Brandon. I'll speak to that. So now, as Ethan said, there are so many ways to skin the cat, right? So Azure is there. It's a great cloud platform. We have AVD, nothing wrong with it. I've actually heard a lot of people say that AVD is different. Well, I'll break it to you. Microsoft RDP remains the foundation and the underpinning of AVD. What Microsoft has done, they've added metering to it. Okay, so if you're using AVD, nothing wrong with it, great product, except I've talked to a lot of MSPs and corporate environments that don't like the complexity of it. Okay. On top of that, depending on whether you choose AVD or Windows 365, you have metering, you have to kind of watch your load. And so what many people have done is because of that fear of using more resources than desired, they have to go get a third-party product to now monitor, their cost. Kind of think about that. So what it isn't going to tell you is about this platform is, flat cost. You don't have to worry about, scary invoicing going up every month. And Microsoft has what they call Azure Local as well. But then it's also ongoing cost. You don't own anything. You pay Microsoft on a monthly basis. And the complexity, I've talked to a lot of people that try to do it, and it's very complex, which is why they renamed it Azure Local. It used to be a different name, but it was so complex, people never used it, and they rebranded it to Azure Local for a better name. I myself, my experience came from the Citrix world before we started TruGrid. It's a great product, except it's very complex, several moving parts, and it still has some of the concerns that we have with security, which is the more complex the product is, the more likely people are going to miss something, right? If you kind of think about it, if you deploy a solution, you have to go touch 10 different areas to make it secure. There's a good chance that you might miss something. And that's some of the, I've seen some of our existing clients here who came from the Citrix world, started using TruGrid, and they love the simplicity of it. And of course, licensing. With Citrix, there's a lot of complexity with licensing, arm twisting. You have to sign 3-year contract. We're not bashing them. We're just saying that for organizations that want something different, something simple that anybody that has foundational IT experience can use, we have a better solution for you. In short, we bolt on to the existing RDS. RDS remains the underpinning of all remote access products that support RemoteApp, and we do that in a cinch, as you're going to see momentarily during that demo. Hazen? Oh, this is mine. Okay. So one of the things I want to kind of share with you as well is management, right? So whatever system you have, being able to manage it is going to be very crucial. So for all of our customers that are using TruGrid, this is a product that we released not too long ago. It can support a full-blown RDS environment. RDS by nature doesn't come with any management platform. You have a bunch of PowerShell scripts, command line stuff, but no single interface to manage anything. So what TruGrid is given to you is, in addition to securing the access, being able to simplify it, we now also give you an interface. The dashboard has multiple cards that kind of show you what's going on. So at a glance, you can see how many computers you have, what's online, what's idle, what's offline, number of sessions, and all the good stuff. And you see a thumbnail of your resources. Over the left, when you click on the computers, you will see all the computers' information. You can see the resources on them and whatnot. On the user side, users and sessions, you get to see who's idle, who's connected, who disconnected for how long. You can log people off. You can shadow them if they're online and they need access to do something. You can log them off. You can disconnect them. You can send a message to everyone if you need to do maintenance. So that's there. And then you have analytics where you can see at a glance what's going on, the logon performance, who's taking too long to log on. You can see an overall metrics of the environment. You can even see timeline of each server and say, look, this server, if I click on it, over the last 7 days or the last 3 days, this is the CPU trend. This is the memory trend. This is the RTT round trip trend. All of those things are available to see. It isn't able to show that today, but for all of our customers, it's available online. You can download it, and then we can also do a private demo for you if you so need it. Hazen's focus today would be how to set up an environment from beginning to end and then launch some applications. And of course, we have a log. When you have, this is a multi-tenant, multi-admin dashboard. So that if you have an organization that has multiple admins, you can connect to it and co-manage the environment. And all the changes are logged. If somebody logs a user off, you disconnect the user, you add a new system to the pool, everything's logged in there for you to see. And it's a robust environment, very simple to deploy. This environment you're looking at can be set up in 10 minutes. That is simplicity right there. It's just a single exe, you launch it, and you enable the service, and you start gathering information in your environment. Okay. Thank you very much, Hazen. With you.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. I think that kind of management platform is super cool. Coming from someone who has managed full RDS environments before and trying to do that from within Windows native tools with PowerShell scripts and stuff, it's certainly cumbersome, I'd say, and having some kind of single pane of glass like that is definitely very attractive for engineers, in my opinion. So we've talked about control, we've talked about simplicity. How do we bring those things together? So from an infrastructure perspective, that's where KorGrid comes in. Like Peter spoke with, KorGrid is dedicated resources for you. We don't overcommit or oversubscribe. It's a predictable cost. A lot of the cloud providers, the Amazons and the Azures of the world, they nickel and dime you. Everything costs money. Ingress, egress, IPs, input, output, get, put, storage, compute, rent, it's all a line item. With KorGrid, though, you're able to free up a lot of that unknown and turn that into a very predictable cost, whether you are a single application or a VDI farm of 200. The costs are very predictable month to month. And finally, dedicated support. Good luck calling Microsoft if you have an issue. I don't even really know where Microsoft's tech support number even is on their website. I've certainly never been able to find it. So if you want an environment where when you pick up the phone and you call, you can know that with KorGrid, there's an engineer on the other side of that. Same with TruGrid. There are engineers on the other side of that phone that are ready to help you solve your problem. Your business is important to us. I know it might not feel that way sometimes with some of the other cloud providers, but with KorGrid and TruGrid, that's absolutely a 100% correct statement. So from the infrastructure perspective, we've got you covered. And then from the application and connectivity perspective, that's where TruGrid really shines. With secure access, there's no VPN. With TruGrid, there's no VPN. It all just happens for you out of the box. There's no exposed RDP. There's no firewall rules you have to poke holes in. There's built-in MFA, which for me, you know, right there, you're combining 2 or 3 different products into a single solution. I don't have to go out and get a Duo or some other kind of third-party MFA provider. It's built in out of the box, which is super cool from a licensing perspective. I don't have to worry about that. And then for RDS operations, session visibility, host monitoring, user control, you saw a lot of that from the screenshots that Peter presented with RDSM, which again is a super, super cool solution. But at the end of the day, we can talk all we want about it, but let's show it to you. Let's show you a demo where we can demonstrate how easy it is to go from basically nothing to VMs provisioned and you connecting to either full remote desktops or remote apps. And we can do that in just a few minutes. So I think we're going to move into the live demo now, right, Brandon?
Yep. In just a moment, I wanted to address a couple questions that came in. First one is, I'm a TruGrid MSP and we do not have these features in our console. I believe that's referring to the RDS management tool. Right now, it's not built into the dashboard. I imagine that will be coming in a few months or so, but we can provide downloads for you. And I believe we do actually have it available on our website. So regardless, I'll get that sent out to everybody later today or tomorrow, so everybody has access to that RDS manager tool. I think that basically covers a couple of the other ones, except for Peter, I might need you to help me on this one. It says, is there per user reports, a report showing the user's login activity?
Yes. Yes, in the RDS manager, the download we're going to give you. So for existing customer, just go to chat. I think we have Ray on the call. Just go to chat and request it, and we'll send you a link, download link.
Yeah, so just go to the TruGrid crisp chat from their dashboard.
And make a request, and they'll give it to you.
Okay. So what we're going to be going over on the demo today is going to be setting up a hosting environment, control for RDS workloads, network firewall and resource management, secure access without VPN or exposed RDP, RDS host, user session visibility, operational actions with or from a centralized interface. I just want to let everybody know too, this is a live demo. This isn't going to be pre-recorded. So hopefully everything goes well, and I have confidence it will. So good luck to you, Hazen. I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, so the thing I want to mention before I even start any of this is that I'm not a TruGrid employee. So I'm the one leading the demo here. So this is from a completely third-party perspective of setting up the TruGrid platform from start to finish, which I thought was super easy when I first demoed it with Brandon and the team. I was like, wow, this is super awesome. I gotta get in on this. So let me share my screen. Oops. And we will run through it. All right, so over here on the left, I am logged into the TruGrid portal. And then over here on the right, we are logged into the KorGrid tenant, or the TruGrid tenant hosted on KorGrid infrastructure. So out of the box, this is your main dashboard that you would come in and provision your environment, whether that's networking, firewall, virtual machines, whatever you want. Again, we talked about control. This is an environment that you have full and direct access to, both through a management UI as well as full API access if you want to automate any of these steps. So the first thing we want to do right out of the box is we want to set up some networks. By default, we have an external network that comes pre-provisioned, which is essentially your internet circuit. We've already set up one network called TGNet, which we'll use for the demo, but I do want to show you how easy it is to come in and set up additional networks. So you could think of this TGNet as a VLAN, an internal VLAN to your environment. And you can think of external as the internet. So there's a router that's in between here that's built in. So if I wanted to create additional VLANs, if I wanted to have a VLAN for database servers and a separate VLAN for my VDI, it's very easy to configure that. I would just come in, create a new internal network. I'm going to give it a name, test VDI. We'll give it a static IP address of 10.128.1.1, or I'm sorry, 0/24. Give it a network address, set up DHCP if we wanted to set up DHCP, and that's it. We click submit and we have a new network. Here is the TGNet configuration, just so you guys can see. We're tagging this as VLAN 5 for this specific example. But you can very easily change this VLAN tag to whatever you want to, again, fit the way that your environment operates. So now that we have a network, it's time to create some VMs. So if I come up to virtual machines, we have a couple VMs already created. We have our domain controller and some other infrastructure already set up. But I do want to show how easy this is to go from scratch. So if I were going to create a brand new VM, and let's say I have nothing yet, I just go to new, and here's a list of recipes that I can use. I can also create something completely from scratch if I want more fine-grained, granular control over every single little setting. But for this example, I'm just going to do Windows 2025. I'll do an eval VM. I'm going to click next. We'll give it a name, test VDI 05. Give it some cores, give it some RAM. Let's say I want 12 gigs of RAM instead of 8. Give it a host name, test VDI 05. We can automatically set our time zones. We can automatically set the disk drive and how big of that drive we want. We're going to use the 2025 evaluation ISO. And instead of creating a new network, we're just going to go ahead and attach this to our existing TGNet VLAN. I click submit. That's it. I'm ready to turn it on. I power the VM on, and it's going to immediately start running through the Windows installation. If I go and connect to the remote console, we can actually watch it in real time start to run through the Windows 2025 installation process. So this would be very familiar to what you're used to with any normal VM installation. So we're not going to go through and wait for the whole operating system to install. Let's say this is 5 or 6 minutes for it to run through the installation. So we have another VM that we already built for the demo called VDI2. Now this VM is vanilla. The only thing that we've done is we have obviously installed Windows Server 2025 and we've joined it to the domain. But other than that, it is completely vanilla. There's no other agents or anything installed on here. You've just got your drivers, paint, calculator, that's it. The reason I want to highlight this is to talk about how easy it is to integrate machines into the TruGrid environment without having to go and install something on every single computer that you want to connect to. So we have this VDI machine. Now that that's ready, we're going to go over to our domain controller. There we go. So here in our domain controller, we would install, and it doesn't have to be installed on a domain controller. You can install the Sentry Broker on any application server within your environment. But we've installed the Sentry Broker, which once installed automatically creates a TG computers and TG users group within your Active Directory domain. So TG users is the group where you would assign the people that are allowed to have resources assigned to them later on in the process. So we see here, I'm in the TG users group, Hazen Core, there I am. TG computers, very similar. This is where you would assign machine resources that can be assigned to individuals or to other groups. So we see here that our VDI02 is not currently in the group. So I'm going to add that machine to the group here. Go to computers, TG. There's TG VDI02. So I'm going to add that machine to the group. Click OK, and that's it. I'm done. I've done everything I need to on my environment locally. Now, I'm going to come over to the TruGrid portal, and I'm going to go to company, and then I go to resource assignment, and I'm going to find myself, Hazen Core. I'm going to go to manage assignments, and I'm going to see that that TG-VDI-02 now shows up as a resource that is available to assign. So I'm going to assign that to me. Now this is going to assign me a full desktop. But if you're in an environment that does a lot of VDI, or if you want to do RemoteApp, you can just as easily do remote apps as well. I'd go right here to resource assignment, go to app assignment. And before I do anything, I need to turn on RemoteApp. By turning that on, what that's going to do is that's going to tell the Sentry Broker to go and scan all the machines that are in your RemoteApp group for all the applications that are installed on them. So if I go to manage assignments, here is all the list of all the applications that are installed that are available to be deployed as a remote app. I'm just going to pick the first in the list, Microsoft Access. Sure. Click update. There we go. Now if I come back to my workspace, we see that the TG-VDI-02 is assigned, as well as Microsoft Access as a remote app. So I have here the TruGrid Windows Connector, which is an installable application on your client machine that you can use to launch these sessions. You can also launch them from the browser if you want to, but you gain a couple more settings when using the Windows Connector. Specifically, I can come in here and I can create desktop shortcuts to individual machines or to individual remote apps. So I actually don't have to launch any kind of browser or application. I can create a shortcut, share that to someone, and then they can just double click on the shortcut. But as an example, so TG-VDI, I'm going to go ahead and connect to this full Windows remote desktop. And there we go. Now I'm in. Here's the desktop, just like what you're used to. Now, if I wanted to also connect to the remote app, let's go ahead and launch Microsoft Access. So that's going to take just a second to start up. There it is. There we go. Now this Access, this Microsoft Office 365 is installed on the server. So obviously we don't have it licensed right now. So that's why we're seeing the license and activation. But this is running from that remote server. So there we go. There's a full desktop and a remote app deployed in, what was that? Definitely under 10 minutes. So we've gone from nothing, a vanilla environment, to Windows VMs created, provisioned, installation of the operating system, very light configuration. We assign the machines to the resource groups that we want, and then we're instantly able to connect to these machines. All without, if you notice, I didn't do any firewall configuration. I didn't mess with firewalls on the Windows machines, and I certainly didn't mess with any firewall rules in the KorGrid virtual environment. So this is completely out of the box, no opening port 3389, no punching holes in firewalls whatsoever. It's just that easy. Now this is the default configuration. If I want to modify any of these settings, or let's say that you are a 4K multi-monitor power user, you can very easily come into the TruGrid Windows Connector, come into settings, and here is where you can play with all of those settings. You can change the screen resolutions, set up multi-monitor support, come in, turn on and off things like wallpaper and Windows animations. Now, device redirection is turned off by default because these settings are tailored for kind of a ideal usage scenario. But again, when we talk about control, if you want that kind of granular control, you can absolutely come into these settings and play around with redirecting printers, redirecting drives. It's all super, super easy, and it's all super fast.
That was pretty good, pretty quick. Thank you, Hazen, for that. I think we're pretty much wrapping up what we had going on here today, so we can stick around and answer any more questions that anybody might have.
Yeah, Brandon, that there are 2 questions. I can answer them if you want.
Which ones are they? I didn't see them.
Somebody was asking if there's a user reports showing the user login activity, and then somebody was asking about that being on TruGrid. Did we answer those?
I think we answered those, yes.
Okay. So for anyone who missed that, I think Israel was asking the question. The RDS manager, which you can request from the TruGrid support chat, does have it tracks user login activity. It also tracks the performance of those users, how many seconds it took them to log in, and it breaks it down to how long it took for GPU to launch, how long it took for the shell to load, how long it takes for login script to launch. It breaks it down for you. And yes, it's out there. And it is currently a Windows specific application. The web interface, the dashboard part of it is coming in a few months. So this was released to kind of get people going that needed to have something. The current download is par AD domain, and the one that will be in the dashboard will be multi-tenant. So you don't have to go into a different environment to install anything. It'll be bolted on as part of the Sentry implementation. But this current download is a single exe, no pre-installation. Within 10 minutes, you can have it going. If you need any assistance, we have our support team and get you up and running in no time. And we will take any more questions that we have, so we can. Somebody is asking how the product is priced. Brandon, that's for you. David wants to know how it's priced.
As far as the pricing, our retail for the TruGrid portion is $15 a user per month, and there's discounts for service providers or resellers. So if you have any volume discount questions, just reach out to me personally, and I'll provide you with any kind of specific pricing.
Okay.
But we do give deals for service providers, and retail is $15 a license.
Okay. And there's a question from Goico. I think is asking, so maybe this is more, well, I'm going to let you answer this one, Hazen, shortly, from the same person. So Goico wants to know, I would like to know, what are you using for virtualization? I think I'll let, is it VMware, Proxmox, or something else? Hazen, that's for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. So the hypervisor, the underlying hypervisor platform that we run is called Verge. What you saw a demo of is the Verge OS, which would be comparable to kind of ESX if you come from a VMware environment, or Nutanix Acropolis if you're more familiar with the Nutanix side.
Yes. Please keep your questions coming. We're here to answer them for you. I see a lot of clients on the call. Thanks for joining, all of you. And if you have any questions, if it's just a client, you have any questions for us that has been burning and you haven't had a chance to ask us, please do so now. We'd love to answer your questions. A lot of good things coming down to TruGrid this year as well. In addition to the RDS manager and also the bolt-on to the dashboard, we're also going to be coming with our ZTNA product in the next 3 months that will allow you to not only proxy into RD desktop, but to any application behind your firewall without any firewall exposure. You know, whether it's SSH app, FTP, whatever it is, you'll be able to kind of connect to it. I know we have Josh on the call who's been ribbing me to make sure we support ZTNA. So if I didn't mention that, it's probably gonna kind of crucify me. Josh, you want to say something, Josh? Josh is here.
Yeah, I'm here, Peter. So we are looking forward to quite a bit. And many times I've explained to folks that this is the perfect ZTNA solution right now, except it only supports RDS protocol. Any day now, any month now, there'll be the full ZTNA. So that's what we're waiting for.
So Hazen, what that means is for anybody using KorGrid, whether they're hosting other applications beyond RDP-based RDS solution, if you have SSH, they won't have to touch the firewall. They'll be able to connect to all those applications running in KorGrid without playing with firewall port. Once you set up your VLAN, and then we would take care of the rest with zero exposure.
Peter,
Brandon?
for the RDS manager, does that need to be installed locally?
For now, yes. So basically in the domain, and I know Gorko's on the call, so Gorko, for that large client of yours that you have, just drop that one exe, which we can actually do a session together on this. In there, within 10 minutes, you are gathering in a lot of information from the farm, including logon performance, bottlenecks, shadowing, all that stuff is now built in for you.
Yeah. And then as far as the recording of this webinar, I'm going to send it out to everybody and make it available to everybody. It'll probably also be posted online.
And somebody said KorGrid is awesome. We agree. So thank you very much.
One of the things I want to share out real quick before it gets too late is that if anybody wants to schedule a demo of TruGrid or KorGrid, you can just scan this QR code and then it'll get somebody from TruGrid, somebody from KorGrid on there to walk you through everything. So take a second and scan that code if you're interested in a demo. Otherwise, like always, you can always go to our homepage and request a demo there.
One last thing I'll say before we head out is there's a free version, a community version of the RDSM for those who are not clients of TruGrid that Brandon is going to send to all attendees today who are not current TruGrid customers. So even though you're not a customer, you'll be able to use a version of it. It's not as full-blown as the paid version, but it gives you something out of the box that you can start using to monitor your RDS environment. And of course, Josh wrote a blog that we're going to be releasing as well that talks about our product on the RDSM and whatnot. So we thank all of you for joining today. Brandon, I'm going to turn over to you.
Yeah, no, it was great for everybody to show up today. I think everything turned out really well. We're excited to take any calls or questions that anybody has in the future. And I'm going to get a copy of this webinar sent out to everybody. So we appreciate everybody showing up. Thank you,
everyone.
Hazen,
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I know some people thought that we were going to have Ionis on here, but we had to pivot pretty quick, and we had been working with KorGrid for a while, so it worked out very well. Unfortunately, Ionis was not able to make this one, but I think it worked out better anyway. So we look forward to doing any demos and helping anybody out that needs us in the future.
Thank you. Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.
Guys.
Bye.